who you are is enough.
It
Who
is.
you are is enough. You don't have to try to fit in, but you can belong, and you can belong to it's okay to be by yourself and, have that sense of belonging. So how can people, right? We've talked about childhood and, how it impacts us as grown-ups. How can people release old patterns and programming to embrace deeper fulfillment?
Yeah.
I love how you took accountability and how you were able to sit with yourself and realize, wait, I'm the common denominator here. What's been happening in my childhood? But I think for some people, right, for some of us, I keep saying some people as well, let me not exclude myself because it's a struggle. We keep going through these patterns, right? And it can be hard, maybe our ego or something, like just stopping yourself and saying, wait, let me look inwards. There's something in me, something about me that makes all of this happen, right? It could be an old programming. So how can people heal or release those old way of thinking and just open up and let in? Hello, people. Welcome to Life as We See podcast with A&A. Welcome to another fantastic episode of our podcast where we bring you topics around faith, love, relationships, social issues, true life stories, and everything in between. And on today, I have another wonderful guest. I keep bringing you guys exciting guests. So today I have Kelley Sgroi. Welcome, Kelley.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
You're welcome. Good to have you here, Kelley. So a brief intro on Kelley. Kelley is a licensed mental health counselor who utilizes a wide range of modalities to introduce her clients to deeper connections through their own self-discovery. She's a mom of triplets, a 13-year breast cancer survivor, and a thriver after narcissistic abuse, and a business owner. Kelley was adopted at 6 years, 6 weeks, and despite having loving parents, never felt like she belonged, and she struggled her whole life with self-esteem and self-worth. And today she's going to be sharing with us, some of her experiences. And she helps right now others discover and recognize their inner strength and realize their self-worth. So once again, welcome, Kelley. Nice to have you. Awesome. So let's... Kelley, you look very cheerful and happy. I feel like where I am right now, it's cloudy, rainy, gloomy. So I need that.
Hot here in Florida, it's always hot and gross.
Oh my God, hot and sunny, right? That's what we want.
So humid and some hiding, so it's hard to not be cheery. I try to just be cheery, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's all we need. Yeah, that's what we need to make life better. I guess. Exactly. Okay, let's go into it. So, Kelley, can you tell us about yourself, your early childhood experiences? What was growing up like for you?
Yeah, early childhood experiences. I like to share that I had great parents, right? Like, I didn't realize until way into my adult life that my parents are kind of, what we call emotionally unavailable, right? Like they gave me everything I wanted. They were very much good. They were providers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember not being an overall happy kid. But I was kind of a loner as a kid. I didn't have a lot of friends. I always felt like I was this odd person out. Didn't feel like I belonged. Like everybody today, I think, we all have a history or experiences in bullying, but I was made fun of. I just kind of felt like a square peg trying to fit into a round hole, and I never understood why. I was adopted young. I always knew that I was adopted. People ask me how old was I when I found out, and I don't know. It was just something that I knew I was. But I remember really early, first or second grade, kids finding out that I was adopted and making fun of me. Telling me things like, you were so ugly when you were born that your mom gave you away. Yeah, kids are mean.
Kids are mean. Gosh.
Adulthood, I had adults tell me, just be super ignorant, right? Nobody could love an adopted kid as much as they could love a biological kid. And those things stick with you.
Yeah.
Right? They stick with your memory. They're things that just don't, get locked in that subconscious part of our mind, right? It's just there. You just hear it in the back of your head.
Mm-hmm.
At least I did forever. So always kind of trying to feel like I was good enough or that I belonged somewhere. Like I was, common theme for me as a kid was like I wasn't worth keeping. Like I remember getting in arguments with my parents at a very young age and being like, "You're just give me back, send me back, right? I'm a horrible kid, send me back." And not really understanding what was happening with me. I think today we have a very different approach to adoption, right? We see adoptees very differently. I was told all the time, "You're so lucky, you have great parents." And I kind of heard in the back of my mind, like, "You're so lucky anyone wanted you." Not like I was lucky to have great parents, but I was lucky to have any parents because I was that damaged. Working through that feeling of being damaged. And I see it even in like senior citizens today, right? Like 70-year-old people that were adopted at such a young age, still struggling with that abandonment. So looking into that research about what happens in utero when there's no bonding, when your birth mothers know she's going to give up the child, is there an effect there? So really interesting stuff coming up these days. But it was a long time.
Yeah, it's so interesting because being adopted at 6 weeks, right? You were a baby, like you didn't even have your own mind or consciousness. So it's interesting how the human mind works, right? Because you think for a 6-week-old baby who was adopted, she would almost feel like she belonged to her adopted family, right? So when you say your parents weren't emotionally available, can you explain what that means, really?
Yeah, don't talk about anything, right? Like
okay.
Anything. Almost like I remember early on going to therapy, like counseling, right? And back then we're talking like the 70s. I would go to counseling and I would draw pictures. And then my parents would come in, we'd talk about like my behaviors or why I was upset or what was going on with me. And my father would get angry and my mother would cry. And he would leave and I would just sit there and like shut down and say nothing. And that's kind of the dynamic in my family. Like anything that happened that had to be talked about, we didn't talk. Like, I just remember always having to be happy. Like, just be happy. Don't be sad. Be happy. I cried. Oh, stop crying. We'll give you something to cry about. Like these weird that I hear that so many people heard them as kids. And thinking about how confusing that was. Like, cry, don't be mad, be good to everybody, just be happy, be good. Those messages that we get, especially girls, girls, just a good little girl, behave. So even today, my parents are in their 80s. Still, we can't have a conversation about anything that is difficult or emotional. Like if I'm having a hard time, I could say I was struggling and my mother would be like, "Oh, everything's fine." Great.
Yeah, I think that generation is just because like you're just mirroring my own childhood experience as well, right? I wasn't adopted. I was born into a family, loving, wonderful family, right? But just like your parents, my parents also weren't very emotionally expressive. And for us, it was more of a cultural thing. Where I come from, we don't show weakness. We don't show vulnerability. We don't show emotions. Yeah. So, and for me, it was normal. For all of us, like my culture, it's normal. Like, why are you being overtly, vulnerable and emotional, right? But hearing you say not having emotionally available parents kind of, impacted you and even made you feel the sting of your adoption more. It's interesting because I agree with you. I wish I had parents who told me, who showed some vulnerability, who when I cried, they were always there for me, but like who showed more emotion, basically. Yeah.
Right. So growing up, like now as adults, if I feel sad, I think something's wrong with me. Right. So eerie, but I learned to always be happy. And it's taken me years to be able to say to somebody, "Wow, I'm feeling really sad today." And about it and not feel like something was wrong with me. Like, and not feel like one day of sadness or one hard thing was going to create this, like the whole world tumbling down.
Yeah.
That so many people that just didn't have that emotional sounding board as a kid, right? We didn't have the parents that let us just cry for no reason. Like, look at kids like cry for nothing.
Yeah.
Recognizing that, they didn't beat me, they didn't starve me, I didn't get locked, like nothing bad happened.
Right.
They just didn't know how to manage their own emotions. With my kids, I tried the best that I could, hindsight 2020, I would do things different. Now my kids are 20. But I have sons, especially, that are emotional. They're able to express emotion. So I think that's successful, right? Like, at least communicate. They don't talk to me, but they can communicate with my son just got married, with his wife, with my other son talks to his girlfriend. They can be open. So hopefully that generational situation.
Yes. It's this is the new, yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry for cutting you short.
Yeah, that's it. We can just like change the dynamic in the family. But it's not, it's cultural, it's generational, and it's changing.
Yeah.
Being vulnerable it's okay.
It's okay. You're human.
I'm like, I have to be perfect. Years ago, a therapist of mine asked me, who told you had to be perfect? And I was like, no one ever really expressed to me that I had to be perfect. I just knew it. It was just something that I felt I had to be. So if I didn't think I could do something perfect, I'd quit. I'd be like, oh, well, I'm not getting straight A's, or I'm not doing this, or I can't be the best softball player or best tennis. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm going to find something else.
Yeah. So what do you think causes that? What's the reason? What's the root cause behind that?
I almost feel like if I wasn't perfect, I was not proving that I deserved to exist, right? And so being given up, I felt like I didn't deserve to actually be born. That person didn't want me. And I would go on to meet my biological family later on in life. And I have a better understanding. And I'm grateful that I was, put up for adoption. But the messaging, that inner stuff still is there. And so I felt like if I wasn't perfect, I wasn't proving to the world that I deserve to be here. And one of the examples I give to my clients these days is like when you look at a baby, right? Anyone who has kids or nieces, and you look at a baby, a newborn, just born, and you look at it and your heart's beating out of your chest because you're just so in love with this creature. And we think, wow, like I love this human so much. Never do we think as they are a day old, a week old, a month old, a year, never do we say to ourselves, gosh, I love you so much, but you have to prove to me that you're worthy. But we, at some point, realize that we have to prove our worth. And where does it come from? So when people question their worth as adults, I will bring them back to, if you have kids, do you look at your child and think that they have to prove to you that they're worthy? And they'll say, no, we don't have to prove we're worthy. We're born worthy and it never changes. We're always worthy. We just forget. We forget that we're worthy because of the influences that we have.
Yes.
And we start believing that we have to prove we deserve to be here by working harder, getting better grades, being a better athlete, being more popular, making more money, whatever it is that our society tells us. It does is create that lack of self-worth, right? Like, I think that my low self-esteem, self-worth came into that I had this belief I had to prove I deserve to be alive. And just recognizing that, of course, I deserve to be here because I'm here. We were put here. So we veer from that. At least I did. And then it took a long time to get back on a track of, and sometimes I still have to remind myself, stop questioning yourself, right?
Yes.
Because it's so ingrained.
Yeah. It's so interesting how like our early childhood experience, right, forms a template with which, that programming runs in our lives, in our subconscious. We just keep through life, relationships and all that. It just keeps running. I'm a Christian, right? So I mean, scripturally, the Bible says that God loves us all, right? And he sent his son Jesus to die for us, right? He didn't demand us to be perfect. He doesn't want us to be perfect. Like, he's not expecting us, right, to please him in every way, because he knows we're human. We would always fail him, right? But sometimes as Christians, we still feel like, oh, if I do something wrong, God hates me. He's going to, he's going to beat me down and all that. But he's not that way, right?
He's punishing God,
He's
right?
not punishing God, exactly.
Forgiven, that's why he gave his son.
Yes, yes.
I have a friend who is Christian. I believe is very much spiritual, but when we speak, I might say the universe and meditation, and she might say God and prayer. Other, and we're not divided, right? She's saying things with different language. We're saying, and the bottom line is that God's not a punishing God.
It's not a punishing God.
He struck down. Because if we were, we wouldn't have this beautiful earth. We'd be living like in the zombie apocalypse, right? We'd be just, it would be ugly.
Right.
Not given his son, and we would be given life and choices and options and friendship and love.
Exactly.
To love. And what you call the higher divine. It's still all about love.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He's punished.
Yeah.
So we forget.
Yeah, we forget. And I think, again, for me, because I've seen people who, as Christians, it's easier for them to accept that part of God, that they see God as a loving God that wouldn't punish them, that just loves them unconditionally, right? And if you check those people, they probably grew up in homes where they were always affirmed. They didn't need to play up to their parents or any adults in their lives to receive that validation, right? Or pats on the back, right?
Well, and it doesn't make any sense to us because some punished and we don't understand it.
Yeah.
And, I hear this saying all the time, like, if you criticize your child enough, they don't start hating you, they start hating themselves.
That is it. If you criticize your child, they start hating themselves and not you. That's true.
Correct. So even situations of abuse, of neglect, children don't understand. Again, the same concept through this adoption process, right? When you're born and you're given up by your mother, because society tells us what a mother is. No one understand why any mother, and especially after having children, like who would give their kid away? But I understand it from a different standpoint.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, and today I'm grateful that she actually had me and gave me life. One thing you said is like so true. Like, we go back to childhood experiences and relationships, and it cracks me up in therapy when I have someone that says, I don't want to talk about my childhood. And I'm like, okay. And then, 5 seconds in, talking about their childhood. Because the truth of the matter, everything starts there. Yeah. And those behaviors, the patterns in our behaviors, and there's only so many variations of human behavior, right? When I think about what's going on in your life now, I can usually predict how your childhood was, and I can usually get it right. Or to some degree. Yeah. And we're playing out those relationships, trying to heal them in our adult relationships.
Right.
Working them out.
Yeah.
When we recognize that we marry people that are familiar to us because of our personalities and our parents' personalities and our sibling personalities, and our relationships with other adults is similar to what we dealt with in childhood because it's familiar. When we don't like it, we look at ourselves. I had to look at myself in the mirror one day and be like, whoa, like, you're the common denominator here. And right, you're it. So change. If you want things to change, you have to change you.
Yeah.
And in doing that work, finally stop blaming everyone else. I can't blame my parents. I can't blame teachers. I can't blame my ex-husband. I can't blame anybody. I have to do that work.
Yeah.
And when you do that work, at least for me, that's when my life started changing and started making. And I started going, Now I see why all those things happen.
Okay. So I wanted us to go then into, let's go in that direction. So so you grew up in this home throughout maybe childhood, teenage years, and then you moved out of home. What was your relationships and friendships like? What were they like? Because I know you mentioned a bit of narcissistic abuse.
Yeah.
What was the story behind that, and how did
So,
you escape that? How did you heal?
yeah. That like I got married at 23. I had my kids at 28. I was married for 15 years. I was with my ex 18 years. Looking back, had to own my part of that failed marriage, right? Like I was insecure. I needed a lot of validation. I didn't feel like I was getting it. I was like, I don't know, the grass is greener somewhere else. Someone else is going to love me better. All of that, like constantly looking outside of myself in friendships, in my marriage, in all of these things with my kids, make me care about me. And ultimately, I thought divorce was going to be like, I'm going to find the best person once I get divorced. And of course, that didn't happen because I then was the problem, right? Looking for be happy instead of making myself happy.
Yeah.
And there were issues, and 15 years later, looking back, my ex-husband and I have a good relationship and we have great kids. And but I know for me, like the huge part of that divorce was me just not taking ownership of me. So I dated somebody else after that for about 3 years, and then that relationship ended. And then I met a man who would be like the turning point of my journey, right? So super controlling, very like lots of gaslighting, dividing me, separating me, and isolating me from friends and family. Everything was like his way or the highway. Would cheat on me, and that's when I went into like trying to prove my worth, like that I was worthy, like you're gonna love me, right? I'm gonna make you see how great that culminated with like the ultimate abandonment. He actually left me in a different country and had stolen my passport. So talk about trauma, right? Like, so, had to get the police involved, got my passport back, came back from there back to the States, and literally was like afraid of my own shadow, just a shell of a person. And finally, like my life just felt like it was spiraling. And I finally like looked in, I was just like, wow, what has happened to me? And looked in the mirror, like not literally in the mirror, but finally, wait, what's the same? What has stayed the same in all of this? Me, right? Situations have changed, people have changed, circumstances have changed. I'm the one person that's still the same. And making these bad choices and thinking that I had to prove myself and picking people to be in my life that were dramatic. This person, I ended the relationship 2 weeks into dating him because I thought he was the most negative, dramatic person I had ever met. And then he convinced me to give it another try. And then I ended up trying to prove myself for 3 years. And I felt crazy. Like, I felt like, wait, am I imagining things? Like, did I say, like, what? I literally thought I was crazy. At that point, that ended, where this 10 years ago now, right? And I was a new therapist, just had to go, wow, I need to like get some help. And at that point, I found an amazing therapist who specialized in trauma.
So up until that time, were you exposed to therapy, or was that the beginning of therapy for you?
So I had been in therapy on and off for years.
Okay.
Yeah, I probably became apparent to me about 14, 15 that I had an eating disorder. So I went to therapy for that, then went into treatment for that, and struggled on and off for years, right? Like, even though the behaviors were different, the thinking was always the same, right? I'll be happy when I'm thinner. I'll be happy when I am in better shape. There's never too skinny. If I don't eat that, things will be good. If I look this way, people will love me. Really just that body dysmorphia piece, and never really seeing myself. I used to be like, I live in a fun house, right? I have those fun house mirrors. I don't have any idea what I look like. And that external validation, using everything outside of me to validate this being, and not recognizing that who I am was okay by herself.
Yeah.
So lots of therapy, different versions. After my kids were born, had like horrible postpartum, and I had 3 babies to take care of. So I had no idea what the heck I was doing. I was
man, that must have been tough. Oh my God.
Well, my kids were born 9 weeks premature, so they had lots of little issues early on. I felt like a failure as a mother because I couldn't carry them any longer than I did, and they were sick, and then I couldn't manage 3 babies. And so, the pressure on us as moms to be perfect and be like superheroes, and like kids never cry, and our kids never get sick, and our kids never have we always have it all together. Like, whew, that was hard to live up to. Like, I could barely get through the day.
Yeah.
So recognizing like pressure that is on moms, especially new, to just like be happy, right? Like, you should be happy that you have this baby. And I was like, 3 babies, and this is not what I wanted, and I don't know what to do with these people. So that, and I did therapy after my divorce, and gosh, lots of it. I was diagnosed with breast cancer 2 days before my 41st birthday. So we're 12. So therapy through, going through breast cancer treatment. I did chemo, radiation. I just celebrated 13 years. Yeah, thank you. And being able to go into that and then give back afterwards, right? Like, find me or hear about me or come see me because they know I'm a survivor and I know what they're going through.
Yeah.
Always swore that I wasn't going to let it win, right? It wasn't going to win. I was going to take my life back and live the fullest. But the struggles of, coming from having an eating disorder and then my body changing to that degree, right? Like, having triplets changed my body, having breast cancer changed my body, and then certainly not having the perfect body after that. And then now in my 50s, like, going, wow, I certainly don't look like I did back then. I've come to terms with all of that.
Yeah.
It was ultimately that relationship that changed my life, and I never ever have to see this person again for as long as I live, but I will forever be grateful that God, the universe, whoever directed me into that relationship and put that in front of me did, because it changed me, and it allowed me to take a look at me and to stop blaming everybody else, and to stop being a victim, and to stop thinking that, my parents would always tell me, you can never catch a break. And that was my, that was my philosophy. Like, nothing ever goes my way. And then I changed how I think about it. And I'm like, well, heck, a lot of things go my way.
Yeah.
Me. And I changed my mindset, and I did a lot of work on just what I think about, and acknowledging that when I don't feel good physically, when I have anxiety, when I feel depressed, I'm in with what my head is telling me and what's going on in my life and where my focus is. Knowing that, my anxiety comes from these untrue messages.
Yes.
I tell myself that aren't true. You're not worthy. You're not good enough. You don't matter. When I say those things, I can instantly get anxiety.
Yeah.
And I know they're not true and matter to everybody, but I matter. I matter to God. I matter to the world.
Yes.
And if we can remember those things through all of the stuff that happens in our human experience and our day-to-day lives, right? And we can just keep remembering I matter, and everything's always working out for me, even the really stuff, even the bad stuff, the horrible stuff, cancer, being left in another country, struggling through that. All of that led me on a remarkable journey to understand, right? I found who I am. And I like this, I don't like everything she does, and I don't like sometimes when she gets triggered to old stuff, and I don't like sometimes that I get judgmental, or I get, a little vindictive, but then I take a look at myself and I'm like, okay, I'm human, and these are human thoughts.
Yes.
On with me that I'm having these thoughts. What am I comparing myself to? What am I not grateful for? And I can bring myself back to, right, look at where you are, look at your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so lots of just like blah stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much. You really, really refreshed me with some of the things you shared, because I think it's something a lot of people can relate to, something a lot of people struggle with. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. So you had mentioned, in the earlier times, struggling with self-esteem, self-worth. How were you able to navigate that? Being in therapy, I'm sure it's been a long journey, right? But for the benefit of those listening or watching as well, how can someone who is going through self-esteem, self-worth, and what would you say is the root of self-esteem, self-worth issues? And how does it manifest itself? Because it manifests different in different people, right? How does it manifest? And how can people take, steps towards recovering from that?
Yeah, so for me, it manifested as that eating disorder, that like not being, comparing myself to other people who had more things than I did, right? Like not being one of the popular girls or trying to fit in. And that was a big piece, right? The difference between fitting in and belonging, right? There's a big difference. Fitting in with people, fitting in means I have to change to be they accept. Belonging means I find the energy that I feel like is part of me. And honestly, I find that I belong in places that I never realized I would. And accepting that I actually belong a lot of the times by myself, like I thrive on my own. Mm-hmm. And that's so weird to me based on our society and how we all need to have connections. Mm-hmm. We talked a little bit about this earlier, right? My self-worth, my self-esteem changed when I realized that I was created by divinity, by a divine being. Whatever your listeners believe in, God, Buddha, all, what the universe, all of it, we're here for a reason. We're here because we deserve to be here. And no mistakes, no choices that we made that went sideways, nothing. It's not unforgivable, right? We can always stop and start over. I have regrets, but I can't any of those things by focusing on them. Yeah. The only way I can change anything is by moving forward and being the best version of myself today. Yeah. And looking at myself and saying, okay, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? And if I hurt someone's feelings, apologizing, taking responsibility, talking about what's going on with me. If I judge somebody, I ask myself, what is it about that person that I see in myself that I don't like? I'm just a mirror. Yeah. I just am projecting it onto someone else. So if I see something, I stop and I'm like, oof, you don't know this person. What about bothering you that you don't like about you? And I can take a look at that, and then I can accept that, yeah, that is something I do that I don't like, and I'm going to work on that. It's not that person. And when somebody dumps on me, I know it's not personal because they're just seeing me. They're seeing themselves in me. We're mirrors. And that helps me to not take on everything as mine, right? Like I don't have to feel bad about myself because that person treated me poorly. That's that person. And that helps me so much at the end of the day. And when I get caught in that, you don't matter. Stop. Of course you matter. You are still here. Yeah. Right? Yeah. All the stuff that's tried to take you out. Everything that's tried to kill me, I'm still here. Yeah. Like self-sabotage and self-destructive behavior, starving myself and here. Yeah. We wouldn't be. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I feel like a lot of times, I saw a quote where someone said, before you think you're depressed or sad,
take a look first at people around you, at the company you keep, before, because sometimes depression could be due to chemical imbalance or whatever, but sometimes it's just due to the toxic place you found yourself in. And to your point, what you said about when people treat you some kind of way, don't always take it upon yourself, because it's not you. They're projecting something about themselves onto you, right? And if you keep accepting everything people throw at you as, being your fault, then that's where the depression and heaviness come. So be conscious of that.
And, and I think that in a society today, we're so divided, recognizing that we're really all dealing with the same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We're all the same. We're all human. We all have the same, messaging. And when we try to be separate, I heard somebody say that one of the biggest problems with humans is that we want to be special. We want to be different. Right? And when we accept that, we're all special. We're all different. We don't all, we don't have to be that different. And we don't have to be more special. Thing. We just have to accept that we're all special. We all here and we all contribute. And if we can, I can't deal with the negative toxic energy. Like, I remove myself, right? Like, I live time with family members, with people that just suck me dry. Part of why I like to be with my animals. I like to be alone and want to rejuvenate. And I like to talk about all the good stuff. Talking about this stuff gives me back, right? It makes me feel like alive again. I want to do it.
That's true. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Those were good tips. So just for someone struggling with, self-esteem, self-worth, just realizing, going back to the roots, you did not come here by accident. You were created for a reason, for a purpose by God, and who you are is enough.
It is.
Who you are is enough. You don't have to try to fit in, but you can belong, and you can belong to it's okay to be by yourself and, have that sense of belonging. It's easier said than done, though, but
being something you're not, be somebody you don't feel in alignment with, is like soul sucking.
That's true.
Anxiety will come in, is like trying to force something that's not meant for you.
That's true. So I had this question for you. So how can people, right? We've talked about childhood and, how it impacts us as grown-ups. How can people release old patterns and programming to embrace deeper fulfillment? It's not, I love how you took accountability and how you were able to sit with yourself and realize, wait, I'm the common denominator here. What's been happening in my childhood? But I think for some people, right, for some of us, I keep saying some people, so let me not exclude myself, because it's a struggle. We keep going through these patterns, right? And it can be hard, maybe our ego or something, like just stopping yourself and saying, wait, let me look inwards. There's something in me, something about me that makes all of this happen, right? It could be an old programming. So how can people heal or release those old way of thinking and just open up and let in?
So I think first off, like, once you gain the self-awareness, right? Once you're unhappy, or like you just don't feel good, like you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? You just are like, why does this keep happening to me? Why do I keep going through the same things? Why do I keep picking the same relationships that don't work out? That's the self-awareness. That's the moment to go, okay, maybe it's not all those people, right? Look at what I'm attracting, because like, we're going to attract what's familiar. But if you grew up with emotionally unavailable people, abusive people, toxic family members, that's what's going to be familiar to you. So that's not necessarily what I want, right? Like, I don't want that. Although familiar, it feels comfortable because it's familiar, but it doesn't mean it's healthy. So when that self-awareness comes, then saying, okay, what is the common theme here? And taking a look at that. Therapy is a great way to do that, with a therapist that recognizes those patterns And it really is like so much self-talk. For me, it was identifying where I felt anxiety in my body, recognizing that my anxiety presents in my gut, like that solar plexus area, right? Feel it there. The first thing I do after I take a breath and acknowledge that I feel it is check in with my mind. What am I thinking about? What's happening around me, and where's my brain? Because those are the stories. None of it's true. Like everything in our head is just BS. It's not true. It's a computer program, and we have to give it new information. So when I feel icky, I think about what I'm thinking about, and then I change what I'm thinking about, and I tell my story, because usually what I'm thinking is negative, or it's worry, something I'm trying to control, or it's something I think I need to do. And all of that's just a story that was passed on from parents who didn't have the tools, right? Found like, the toolbox that we had was like a lunchbox, and someone left the thermos out. So we're carrying a lunchbox with no tools in it.
Yeah.
We have to get tools, and we have to get a bigger toolbox. And we recognize that we have these options, and it's repetitive. It's like playing a sport or an exercise. You need to gain the muscle memory. You need to gain the skills. You have to practice it over and over and over again. And every time you feel bad, sick, icky, you're just like crying. You hate your life. You think you're a victim. Nobody likes you. All that stuff, checking in with where that's coming from and then changing it. And over time, it happens more automatically and more automatically. And I tell this story. I remember walking through my house one time in a swimsuit to go out to the pool and looking in the mirror. And inside my head, I heard this voice say, "You're so disgusting." Out of my mouth came, "Oh my God. Like, why would you say that?" Like out loud, I'm just like, you would never say that to a friend. You would never say that to another human being. Why would you say that to yourself? And it was a program. It was a conditioned response. I had been telling myself for so many years how gross I was, how unlovable, and that it just happened. But automatically, I corrected it. And then I laughed at myself because I was talking to myself, and I do it all the time. I will talk out loud to myself and just say, stop. That story's not true. That's not a story. You are lovable. You are important. You do matter. And what that saying, fake it till you make it, like just keep doing it over and over again. And don't let anybody tell you any different. No matter what anybody says, remember that what they're saying is a projection of how they feel about themselves. Anything anyone says about you, they're seeing themselves. And I try to remind everybody, it doesn't matter what they said. Themselves in you, and that they're talking to a mirror. And when I remember that stuff, I can go, okay, it's not about me. It's not. Say it directly to me. It's still me.
That's true.
And
That's true. It just reminds me of the verse of the scripture where it says, guard your heart with all diligence, because out of it flows the issues of life. I feel like a lot of times when you have to be intentional about guarding your heart, right? What gets thrown or projected at you? Because if you keep accepting it, if you accept it, then you have to be conscious to say, just like you, like cast it out, like this is not me. I refuse to think these thoughts. They are not my thoughts. They're projected. Like there has to be that guard. You have to be guarding at all times, being conscious and not just absorbing everything. I remember the first time I went to therapy, and the therapist, just after speaking to her about how I was feeling and all that, she was like, some of the self-limiting thoughts or beliefs I had about myself, she said it was cognitive distortion.
Correct.
That was the first time I heard, and being a therapist, I'm sure you know that was the first time I heard about it. I was like, wait, that's actually true. Like that's distorted. Like if I think of the meaning of distortion, like it's just distorted thinking. It's not true, right? It's coming from so many places, and you have to be able to weed them out and just not let them take roots in you. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So I wanted to find out, what kind of therapy do you do? Can you talk a bit about your therapy and how do you help people? Yeah.
So I'm very holistic approach. So like this is the stuff I talk about in therapy, really. A lot of cognitive behavior therapy too, right? Like addressing that cognitive distortion, addressing the cognitive dissonance, because we have two stories playing in our head the whole time, right? One is telling us one thing and one is another.
Yeah.
Brain. Recognizing that everything in our mind is a story. It's just a story. And so changing our thoughts and changing the way we think about ourselves in the world, cognitive behavior therapy, recognizing like why we do the things that hurt us, why we continue those behaviors, alcohol, drugs, all of the, you know, constant search for dopamine these days, all of the stuff looking outside to feel better inside. You know, I will refer out for medication, but it's not the first thing I do. If somebody's truly clinically depressed, like depression is visible to me, I can see it, I'm going to recommend medication. But with that, I always send my clients to psychiatry with I don't want to say it's an order, but I kind of like tell them, look, they're going to want to give you several medications, right? One for anxiety, one for sleep, one for this. Start with one. We're starting with one. We have to address one thing. Because we're so over medicated that how do we know what's going to work? Let's just start with one thing. And let's get a feel for it. And when you're feeling better and we can now talk, we can take a look at what you're dealing with. So solution focused. What do you want? How do we get you where you want to be? What's your goal? Right? What do you want for your life, and how do we get there? And I have a friend that I'm still friends with. We've been friends for a long time, and she said to me, "Nothing changes if nothing changes." And I used to hate her for that because nothing's going to change if I don't change anything. And I tell people, if you want change, you have to change. You can't expect everything else to change. So, just a lot of just stop listening to your head. Right? Recognize that the messages you have were passed down to you from other people who got from other people. And we believe it because they were our parents, our grandparents. But if you came from another planet and where you were from, what you called the sky was a different color, it was green. And you came here and you were like, wow, your sky is such a pretty shade of green. And someone said, no, that's blue. Who's right? Right? We have systems. We're going to argue the color.
Yeah.
So just because we were taught it and it was given a name and it was given meaning, it doesn't true. It's just someone else's perspective.
Yeah.
Even if your parents just told you every day that you were stupid, the only reason you believe it is because you heard it over and over again. It still doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah. True.
So, you know, recognizing all of those things. So my therapy approach is so different. It's catered to each person, right? It's whoever comes to me, I meet them where they are, because some people are not aware yet. They don't understand that this is just conditioning. This is a program.
Yeah.
I joke around about like back in the 70s when we had to get our information from the encyclopedia, right? I about Zimbabwe today. I'm going to get 1970s Zimbabwe, which is Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
So it's old information. I need new information. And that's what it's like going to an encyclopedia and expecting new information. It's
That's
old.
true.
You can't get it.
That's true. That's true. The brain is powerful. Yeah.
Get new information. I want today's information.
Yeah.
We're a generation, a different society. It's very different. Our parents hate our music. We hate our kids' music.
That's true. Oh my God. Wow. That is so true. Thanks for that.
Both concepts too, right? Like some of the simplest things have the most impact. Breathing. Take a really big breath. We don't breathe. We pant. We do Lamaze breathing here. We need like that cortisol and adrenaline that's coursing through us. We need oxygen to counter huge breath. You won't have a panic attack if you're taking huge breaths. But our fight or flight kicks in and we stop breathing, and then our brain tries to keep us alive. Make us breathe. Take a breath. like step back, take huge breaths. And so we do breathing, and we talk about biology of fight or flight and anxiety and where it comes from, and recognizing that we can control it. I can talk about anxiety and get anxiety. That's how powerful it is. Wow. So when I just, I tell myself, oh, I feel you. You're trying to tell me something? Okay. I talk to it. Yeah. And it usually is like, all right, yeah, I'm trying to get your attention. So it's up.
Wow.
So just lots of different
different methods, approaches.
Anything that helps somebody see. That's it. Just that light bulb moment happens, then things change.
Yeah, that's true. So it's tailored for each individual. It's not like a one size fits all.
Yeah, it's not like here's my cognitive behavior therapy book.
Yeah. Okay.
It's gonna be like, hey, what works for you, right? Also, with when you get anxious, sit down and breathe, or grounding techniques. Do 10 jumping jacks. Bring yourself back a minute. Let's start mindfulness, and then once we can get mindfulness in there, okay, now we can start changing our thoughts. But if you can't get yourself from there to here, then do anything here. We got to get you from where you are back to where you are really seated, and focus on now.
Wow, interesting. That's so good. So final question, I'm going to lump like two in one. So why do people need therapy? Why should people do therapy? And also, where can people find you? How can they find you? How can they reach out to you? And are you working on anything new, any projects?
Always got something on. Therapy. I think, from my perspective, I think that we all need someone objective to talk to. Right? All can use somebody who doesn't know us, who doesn't know our experiences, and see things from a different viewpoint, who understand, human behaviors. So I think that everyone can benefit from having somebody to talk to that isn't trying to fix your problem. Right? People come to me and they tell me I can't do it. I need you to do it. Like, tell me how. Yeah, that's an excuse. You don't want to do it. I can't do it for you. Right? You can't get there by me. You have to get there by you. And I think friends in our family want to solve our problems. Therapists don't. We just support you through your problem. So I think that that's the benefit of having a therapist that is a good therapist, right? That can support you, hold space, right? Hold space for you so you can work through what you have to. I'm very verbal, I'm a verbal processor. So when something's going on for me, if I talk about it, I can usually come up with like an aha moment and go, oh, there you go. When I'm working with somebody, the second I get tears, like the second someone just starts to cry, I'm like, that's what our messaging is right there. Right? That tells me there's a wound in that. And that's where we focus on that icky stuff. And I'm pretty easy to find. Like, you can Google my name and it'll come up. I am currently licensed in Florida and Connecticut and getting licensed in North Carolina, but we have a really great opportunity coming in early 2025 where there's what's called the Counseling Compact. And what the Counseling Compact is that any states that join it and any therapists that join it, excuse me, we can see clients virtually in any of the states that are part of the compact. Care is so bad today. I know here in Florida, people are scheduled out months.
Wow.
Initial appointment and you can't get in for 6 months. COVID, really. And that's not acceptable. It's not acceptable.
That's
right?
true.
We have to be able to address mental illness, right? Our mental health has to matter. Our mental health starts mattering as much as everything else. We won't have, hopefully, knock on wood, half the problems we have.
True.
Right? Let's address illness and stop just medicating it, but let's get to the heart of
Into the
it.
word of it.
Actually, people have someone to talk to.
Yeah.
And that's just my opinion on it, but it doesn't seem to be getting better.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. I have your details, your website and all that. I'm going to put it in the description box of the video and the show notes of the podcast. Do you have social media handles? Okay.
I'm just
sorry.
I said I have Facebook and Instagram, and it's just.
Okay, I see. Okay, I'll put all of that in the description box. So yeah, so that people can connect. Yeah. Thank you so much, Kelley. This was a very good, resourceful conversation. Do you have any last word to say before?
I think that just, one of you mentioned before about that cognitive distortion and what came out, and you were quoting some of the scriptures, and I quote scriptures. One book that's always been really helpful to me is 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And one of the 4 agreements is to be impeccable with your word, and not only to people, but to yourself. And in the book, he says, the word is God, right? Like we use the word like it's God. So use the word in a positive way. Use it for the good. Use it toward good stuff and supportive things. And when I stopped talking to myself like I was my enemy, like that I was I was like to myself. I started liking things a lot better. So the 4 Agreements is a fabulous book for anyone who's like looking for some basic. It's like a Bible to me. I've read it a million times. Super simple to read, and it kind of brings you back to like nothing's personal, and just be good to yourself and just do your best every day.
Awesome.
That's the best you can do.
That's the best you can do. Wow. Thank you so much. I'm going to check out the book as well. And I hope you're listening will do so as well. Thank you so much, Kelley. Really appreciate your time here. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you took one thing or two from it. You can reach out to Kelley if you want to, engage her and follow her. Go to our website. I went to our website. Fantastic. Lots of useful information there. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment. Leave us a review if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, anywhere. We really appreciate your support, and please keep coming back for more wonderful content. We appreciate it. Bye, and see you on the next episode. Bye.